Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to help you get informed on the really big topics changing our world. And today, wow, we're diving into something huge. This intense, high-stakes race for global dominance in artificial intelligence. The White House is calling it a new frontier of scientific discovery. I mean, think about it. Whoever leads in AI, they basically set the rules, right? And they stand to gain enormous economic and military advantages. It's a big deal. So the core of our deep dive today, it's America's AI Action Plan. This document just dropped in July 2025, straight from the White House. And its mission is, well, pretty bold. It talks about achieving and maintaining unquestioned and unchallenged global technological dominance and really harnessing the full power of American innovation.
That's right. It's not just wishful thinking. It's laid out as a strategy. The whole thing rests on three main pillars: innovation, infrastructure, and international diplomacy and security. And our job today is basically to break those down for you. What do they mean? What actions are they proposing? And why does it matter?
Exactly. So if you want the quick version, the real understanding of this crucial policy without reading, hundreds of pages, you're in the right place. This is your shortcut.
And just to be clear, like always here at the Deep Dive, we're focusing purely on what's in the document. We're laying out the plan's stated goals, its strategies, as presented by the White House. We're not endorsing any viewpoints here, just helping you understand what the plan actually says, giving you the facts from the source.
All right, let's jump right in then. Pillar number 1, accelerate AI innovation. Expert. The goal here sounds incredibly ambitious, not just having the most powerful AI, but leading in its creative and transformative application. So how do they plan to actually do that? What's maybe the most striking part of their strategy?
Well, the really striking thing is their aggressive stance on, quote, removing red tape and onerous regulation. They explicitly state that restricting AI development, quote, would not only unfairly benefit incumbents, it would mean paralyzing one of the most promising technologies we have seen in generations. Quote. So this isn't just minor tweaking. They're talking about rescinding the previous Biden Executive Order 42110 on AI, rejecting tough regulatory regimes state and federal level. They're even launching an RFI, a request for information, to actively hunt down regulations that might be slowing things down. And looking again at FTC investigations to ensure they don't unduly burden AI innovation. It's a very clear signal. Speed is paramount.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's definitely a clear message on regulation. But then here's where I found it got really interesting. The plan pivots from that deregulation push to talking about principles, about values. It aims to ensure that frontier AI protects free speech and American values, built on objective truth, free from what the plan calls ideological bias and social engineering agendas. How are they planning to actually enforce that? What does that look like in practice?
It's a fascinating turn, isn't it? Practically speaking, it means revising the NIST AI risk management framework. Specifically, the plan says to eliminate references to misinformation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and climate change. They're also updating the rules for how the government buys large language models, LLMs, to make sure they're, quote, objective. And interestingly, they plan to evaluate AI models coming out of China for Chinese Communist Party talking points and censorship. So it seems like a very deliberate effort to embed a specific view of American values right into the tech's foundation.
So beyond the rules and the values, the plan also talks a lot about how AI gets built and by whom. There's a big push for open source. Why is encouraging open source and open weight AI so important to their strategy?
They see it as really vital for innovation, particularly for startups. Open source means the code is out there for anyone to use, modify, and open weight goes further, sharing the actual trained model parameters. It's like giving away the recipe, not just the ingredients list. This helps innovation move faster, prevents lock-in with just one or two big companies. The plan sees it as crucial for government use too, especially with sensitive data, and absolutely essential for university researchers. They're even talking about improving financial markets for computing power, like creating spot and forward markets for AI compute time, like you see for commodities. Plus, boosting researcher access to computing through the NAIRR pilot program and putting out a whole new national AI R&D strategic plan.
Right, so it's about spreading the tools around to spark more ideas. Okay, so from the foundational tech, the plan then shifts focus. It talks about real-world use and, importantly, the workforce. How does it see AI being adopted in key industries, and what's this worker-first agenda about?
Yeah, the idea is to enable AI adoption. They talk about setting up regulatory sandboxes or AI centers of excellence, especially in critical areas like healthcare. Basically creating safe spaces for companies to experiment with AI, figure out standards, and get useful applications out there faster. And alongside that, They want to empower American workers in the age of AI. That's the worker first bit. The promise is that AI will complement their work, not replacing it. So specifics include pushing AI skills training through federal funding, things like career and technical education, apprenticeships, making it clear employers can get tax-free reimbursement for AI training, and setting up an AI workforce research hub under the Department of Labor to study how AI impacts jobs and fund quick retraining for people whose jobs might change. It's a really broad effort to prepare the workforce, not just react to changes.
That sounds like a significant investment in people. Were there any other, maybe less obvious innovation points in this first pillar that caught your eye?
Oh, definitely. They briefly touch on supporting next-generation manufacturing, thinking about AI for autonomous drones, self-driving vehicles in factories and logistics. Something really interesting is the push to invest in AI-enabled science. Think automated labs run over the cloud, building massive scientific data sets. They propose a whole genome sequencing program for life on federal lands. Imagine that, a huge biological data set to train completely new AI models for medicine, materials. It's a real moonshot idea. There's also a big push for AI within the Department of Defense automating workflows, creating a virtual testing ground for AI and autonomous systems. And importantly, they mentioned building on the Take It Down Act to fight malicious deepfakes, especially in the legal system. It really covers a lot of ground.
Okay, wow. That innovation pillar is packed. Let's move to the second one. Build American AI infrastructure. Let's unpack this because, the plan is pretty blunt about the energy needs here. It notes that American energy capacity has stagnated since the 1970s while China has rapidly built out their grid. That sounds like a major bottleneck. Expert, how does the plan propose we actually build the massive physical and digital foundations AI requires?
Yeah, this is where it gets very concrete. A huge part of the strategy is to create streamlined permitting for data centers, semiconductor manufacturing facilities, and energy infrastructure.
Hmm.
The plan basically says, look, America's environmental permitting system and other regulations make it almost impossible to build this infrastructure with the speed that is required. So the proposed solutions are pretty radical. Things like new categorical exclusions under NEPA. That means potentially bypassing lengthy environmental reviews for certain projects to speed things up dramatically. Expanding the existing FAST-41 process for quicker project approvals. They're even exploring a single nationwide Clean Water Act permit specifically for data centers and making federal land available for building them. It signals a really major shift towards prioritizing construction speed for this critical infrastructure.
And that infrastructure needs power, massive amounts of it. The plan talks about needing to develop a grid to match the pace of AI innovation, calls the grid the lifeblood of the modern economy. So what's the plan for getting our grid ready?
It's sort of a three-pronged approach. First, stabilize what we have now, stop prematurely shutting down existing power sources. Second, optimize the current grid, use smarter management, upgrade power lines, squeeze more efficiency out of it. And third, the really crucial part for the future is prioritizing the connection of reliable, dispatchable power sources. The plan specifically calls out things like enhanced geothermal, nuclear fission, and nuclear fusion. So the focus is clearly shifting towards power sources that are available 24/7, not just intermittent ones, to feed those power-hungry data centers.
Makes sense. Then there's the hardware itself, the chips. How does the plan aim to boost American semiconductor manufacturing? Why is that so central?
Well, the goal of restoring American semiconductor manufacturing is framed multiple ways. Generating jobs, yes, but also reinforcing tech leadership and, crucially, protecting supply chains. We all saw the disruptions during the pandemic, so the idea is to be less reliant on overseas manufacturing. The plan directs the GPS Program Office, which handles funding from the GPS, to really focus on return on investment for taxpayers and to cut out any extraneous policy requirements that might slow things down. This pillar also mentions building special high-security data centers just for military and intelligence use to keep the most sensitive data safe.
And like the innovation pillar, this one also talks about people. It commits to train a skilled workforce for AI infrastructure. Who are they talking about here? It's not just software engineers, is it?
No, definitely not. They recognize you need a whole army of skilled tradespeople to actually build and maintain all this stuff. Electricians, HVAC technicians, construction workers. These are high-paying jobs. So the plan includes actions like a national initiative to pinpoint which jobs are most needed, supporting training programs designed with employers so the skills match the jobs, and expanding pipelines into these careers right from school through things like career and technical education, CTE, and registered apprenticeships. It's about building the human foundation for the physical one.
Right. And finally, under infrastructure, there's cybersecurity. How does the plan approach protecting all this critical infrastructure, especially using AI itself?
Yeah, the idea is to bolster critical infrastructure cybersecurity, and interestingly, to use AI as part of the defense. One key action is setting up an AI Information Sharing and Analysis Center, an AI ISAC. The goal is for different sectors to share threat information related to AI security much more effectively. They also push for secure by design principles, meaning building security into AI systems from the very beginning, not trying to bolt it on later, thinking about how adversaries might try to trick or poison the AI.
Okay, that covers infrastructure. So the third and final pillar, lead in international AI diplomacy and security. Connecting this back to the start, the plan is pretty direct here. It says America leads now in data centers, hardware, models, and the goal is to leverage this advantage into an enduring global alliance. Expert, what are the main diplomatic plays here? How do they plan to promote U.S. AI and push back against rivals like China?
Exactly. A key strategy is to actively export American AI to allies and partners. The plan actually warns that not meeting the global demand for AI would be an unforced error, basically pushing countries towards rivals. So they propose a Commerce Department program to offer full-stack AI export packages, think hardware, software, training, the whole deal, to countries willing to join this America's AI alliance. The aim is clearly to embed American technology globally and build a coalition around it.
And that naturally brings us to China. How does the plan specifically aim to counter Chinese influence in international governance bodies?
It's very explicit. The goal is to promote American values in places like the UN or the OECD, where global tech standards get discussed, and to actively counter what it calls authoritarian influence, specifically mentioning efforts by Chinese companies attempting to shape standards for facial recognition and surveillance. So it's about actively fighting for influence in those international forums.
And what about controlling the tech itself? How does the plan propose strengthening export controls on AI compute power and closing loopholes for chip manufacturing tech?
They want to strengthen AI compute export control enforcement. One idea mentioned is using tech features on the chips themselves, location verification features, to try and track where advanced AI chips actually end up, making sure they don't go to restricted countries. They also want to plug loopholes in existing semiconductor manufacturing export controls. This means developing new controls for specific subsystems used in making chips, things that maybe aren't fully covered now. And a big piece is trying to align protection measures globally, getting allies and partners to adopt the same controls as the U.S. They mentioned using tools like the Foreign Direct Product Rule or even secondary tariffs to pressure others into alignment, preventing rivals from just getting the tech elsewhere.
Okay, shifting to direct national security risks. The plan talks about the U.S. government needing to be at the forefront of evaluating national security risks in frontier models. What kind of risks are top of mind?
The big concerns are the potential for highly advanced AI, these frontier models, to be used for massive cyber attacks, or worse, to help in the development of chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or explosives, CBRNE weapons. So the actions involve the government working with AI developers to evaluate these powerful systems before they're widely released. Also, trying to assess AI systems being built by adversaries, looking for weaknesses or potential backdoors, and recruiting top AI talent into government to make sure they have the expertise to stay ahead of these threats.
And the final piece under this pillar, expert, is a significant focus on investing in biosecurity. The plan mentions the dual-use nature of AI in biology. Can you unpack that?
Right. The document points out that AI could lead to amazing breakthroughs like cures for new diseases. That's the upside. But the downside is it could also provide new pathways for malicious actors to synthesize harmful pathogens, creating dangerous viruses or toxins more easily. So to manage that risk, the plan proposes requiring labs that get federal funding to use DNA synthesis tools that have strong screening built in, checking the DNA sequences being ordered, and verifying who the customer is. They also talk about creating a system for these DNA synthesis companies to share data, making it harder for someone malicious to hop between providers if they get flagged. It's about putting safeguards on the biological tools AI might enhance.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, from innovation through infrastructure to global diplomacy and security. It's incredibly comprehensive. Now, expert, let's maybe zoom out a bit. Thinking about the philosophy behind all this, what really strikes you about the plan's emphasis on deregulation?
Well, it's just how consistent and strong that emphasis is. The plan mentions removing barriers over and over. It even references an executive order about unleashing prosperity through deregulation. And this creates a really interesting tension, doesn't it? Between wanting incredibly rapid innovation, which they think deregulation enables, and also needing security, trustworthiness, ethics, things the plan also mentions when it talks about American values or objective truth. There's that quote, AI is far too important to smother in bureaucracy at this early stage. That tells you a lot, I think. It really prioritizes speed and development right now, seeing regulation mostly as a potential drag, at least in these early phases. It's very much a move fast approach.
That quote really does capture it. Okay, let's turn to the geopolitical angle again. The plan is upfront about wanting to win the AI race, specifically countering Chinese influence. Anyway, how do these strategies, the export controls, the alliances, how are they really designed to lock in American leadership and deny adversaries access?
It really is a kind of technological containment strategy, isn't it? The export controls on the most advanced chips and the compute power needed to run them, that's designed to limit rivals' access to the absolute cutting edge. Trying to shape the rules in international bodies aims to make sure global standards favor openness and democracy, not authoritarian control. And this AI global alliance they want to build. The goal seems to be ensuring allies use American tech, integrate with the U.S. ecosystem, and crucially, don't become sources for adversaries to get technologies the U.S. is trying to restrict. It's leveraging today's lead into, hopefully from their perspective, a lasting geopolitical advantage.
It certainly paints a picture of fierce global competition, but let's bring it back home. What does the plan actually promise for the average American? For the future of work? I mean, it uses grand language, an industrial revolution, an information revolution, and a renaissance all at once. That's quite a claim. How does it square that with ensuring AI will improve the lives of Americans by complementing their work, not replacing it?
Well, the overall picture painted is very optimistic. It talks about increasing the standard of living for all Americans. That worker-first AI agenda is key to this narrative, the idea that AI should augment people, make them more productive, not push them out. And they back this up, at least on paper, with all those initiatives we discussed. Massive investments in training, retraining, apprenticeships, plus the argument that building all this new infrastructure, the data centers, the factories, the power grid, will itself create thousands of high-paying jobs for American workers.
Oh.
So the vision is one of transition, yes, but ultimately leading to new and better opportunities fueled by AI growth.
Okay, if we look at the plan's strengths, just based on what's written in the document, what really jumps out? Is it the sheer scope, the ambition?
I think the comprehensiveness is definitely a major point. It really does try to connect the dots across so many different areas: science, industry, defense, education, energy, diplomacy. It's broad. And yes, the ambition is undeniable. That goal of unquestioned and unchallenged leadership is incredibly bold. Also, that relentless focus on speed, on cutting through perceived delays, that signals a very strong, perhaps necessary commitment to getting things done quickly in a fast-moving field.
But that same ambition, that same focus on speed probably hints at the challenges too, right? What difficulties does the plan itself seem to anticipate, even implicitly?
Absolutely. The very fact that they have to emphasize the speed that is required so often suggests they know that actually building all this infrastructure rapidly or changing entrenched regulations across multiple levels of government is going to be incredibly difficult. Things like aligning protection measures globally, getting all allies on the same page with export controls. That's historically very tough. Preventing adversaries from backfilling technology through third countries is a constant cat-and-mouse game. And the plan itself mentions the need for constant vigilance regarding emerging and unforeseen risks from AI. That's an admission that this is a moving target, that new problems will pop up that they haven't even thought of yet. The implementation challenges are immense. So if we have to boil it down, what are the 5 most important takeaways from this deep dive into America's AI action plan? First, a race for dominance. It clearly frames AI as fundamental to national security and maintaining U.S. global tech leadership. No ambiguity there. Second, deregulation is key. A central plank of the strategy is removing perceived regulatory roadblocks to speed up private sector innovation and rollout. Third, infrastructure is fundamental. Huge focus on enabling the physical backbone, energy, data centers, chip manufacturing through investment and faster permitting. Fourth, geopolitical strategy. It's explicitly using AI as a tool to counter rivals, mainly China, via export controls, alliances, and shaping global rules. And fifth, worker-centric vision, as described. The plan strongly emphasizes that AI should help workers create jobs and include significant plans for training and retraining to manage the transition.
Okay, that's a great summary, which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. So, what does this all mean for you? Considering the plan's huge ambition, aiming for a new golden age of human flourishing, transforming everything, what unseen ethical questions or maybe societal shifts might come from this incredibly fast, deliberate push for technological dominance? Beyond the risks of misuse or bias that the plan does touch on, what else might we need to consider? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into America's AI Action Plan. We hope it gave you a clearer picture. Keep exploring this complex world of AI and policy. Until next time.